Hi, Trauma Thrivers. Welcome to today, and an even bigger welcome and thanks to Madeleine Black. Madeline and I do know one another, and I'm delighted that she's given us her time today to speak about all things trauma, and also maybe to touch on where we are in the world at the moment, given the coronavirus and the crisis that we're currently going through. So I want to start off by introducing Madeline to you. So Madeline is an author, speaker, and psychotherapist. She speaks out about sexual violence and has written a brilliant book. For those of you that haven't read it, I would thoroughly recommend it. It's called Unbroken. It's about her own personal experience of surviving teenage rape. Madeline is also part of the Forgiveness Project, which I do want to ask her a little bit more about. And she speaks internationally against sexual violence and helping women to their voices. So today, I really want to start speaking to Madeline and for Trauma Thrivers about how she did do that and find her voice. Because I know that in trauma, especially for those of us that have been through any kind of sexual violence, it's very difficult to speak out and speak up. So thank you, Madeline, and welcome.
You're welcome. Lovely to chat to you.
Lovely to chat to you too. And I guess I'd really love to start at the beginning. For those of you that don't know you, how did you begin to find your story?
It didn't happen overnight. I didn't, where I've got to now, it's been a process. It's been a long process. So I'm 54 now, nearly 55, and I was only 13 when it happened. So it's been 40 odd years of work, or maybe not even 40 odd years of work, because for a lot of the time I was just shut down and I was just numbed out. So it's just been very many different layers. I guess finding my voice is when I shared my story online for the first time in about 2014 with the Forgiveness Project that you mentioned. And that really then started to get inquiries of going to speak. And then finding out that I could speak, I could share my story, and I wasn't ashamed anymore, because it really was the shame that kept me quiet all these years. Because the shame is it's just such a horrible emotion, it just speaks to us and tells us this stuff told me that if people knew my story, they wouldn't want to know me, that they would be disgusted, they would look at me differently. So shame really kept me quiet for a long, long time.
Yeah. And what led you into doing the work as a therapist and starting to uncover the layers and go towards what you have gone towards? Because it's, as you say, it's not an easy task, is it?
I just think I was always driven to clean up. I very nearly didn't become a mum, and I am the mother of 3 gorgeous girls. I can say that because I am their mum. And so I thought that was it. And then, my eldest daughter became the same age, and all my memories came back. And I just thought, we can convince ourselves of anything. I told myself that I was okay, but really I wasn't. I was still living from a place of fear. Fear, it just shadowed everything that I did. Getting in my car, putting the buttons down, not being able to put the wheelie bins down the end of the garden if my husband was away and it was dark. Couldn't walk into a room without putting a light on. Everything, I couldn't have knives in my kitchen for a long time. So many phobias, fears, anxieties. But when all these memories returned, I was studying to be a psychotherapist then and doing lots and lots of personal development. You name the therapy, I have most probably done it. Loads of them.
You did both, yeah.
Yeah, and I just thought, it's time to really clean this up. Am I going to let this always be a shadow in my life? Or, it felt like I had put myself in the deep freeze for years, and I had defrosted a lot of it, but there was still a chunk of it that needed to work on, and I could see that then. And once I saw I had a choice. I could let it still influence my life, or I could clean this up once and for all, just to kind of drain the swamp, so to speak.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And how did you start draining the swamp? For those women or men that are listening today that have been through childhood sexual abuse or rape or any sort of sexual violence, where can we encourage them to start or begin the process? Because I know it feels insurmountable at the beginning, doesn't it?
Well, even to say the word, you know, to say I was raped, I couldn't even say the word rape. I couldn't read it. I couldn't see it written down. I remember walking into my college one day and somebody was having a supervision session and the word therapist was on the board and they put a line between the E and the R and it said the rapist. And that, I couldn't even look at the board. It just freaked me out. It was about doing inappropriate therapy with someone and over, you know, boundaries and the rest of it. But I was like, oh my gosh, you know, even to look at the word terrified me. But without a doubt, finding my voice and giving it oxygen, being able to say the story in its entirety, but being really careful who you choose to tell the story with.
Yeah.
You know, finding someone that I trusted, even though the sessions were really, really challenging. When I saw all of my fears, I got to a place where I decided to challenge my fears. So the two young men that raped me were American, and my therapist that helped me really was an American male.
Oh my
So
God.
I put myself into situations when I saw that my fear was a lot of my imagination. It was really, it was based on what had already happened or based on what could happen to me. But if I looked at my fear, it actually wasn't happening right here, right now. So I specifically put myself into these situations. So working with Ron was my therapist was challenging because he was
how long were you with Ron and how did you find him?
Well, it's maybe a little bit inappropriate because he was my tutor at college. So there was a few blurred boundaries going on. And he was also my supervisor, but then he became my therapist as well. So yeah, I don't know if that's really the best thing to do, but I knew that I could trust him.
It happens.
Yeah, I could really trust him. So it was about 3 years, the last time that I had therapy.
Yeah.
And through him, I also discovered body work. So I was struggling with my memories. You know, I couldn't believe them. I didn't want to believe them. And interestingly, the more I denied them, the faster and harder they came back in. Often I would get my memories in my dream state. So I would wake up in nightmares and have new information. And I've worked for like 14 years at Women's Aid. I've worked 6 years at Rape Crisis. And I just said to myself, well, you know, it's other people's stories. I've just made it up. This didn't happen to me. And I know about disassociation and the rest of it. But when it comes down to you, I just thought I was going bonkers. Even though I'm a therapist, you know, I just thought I've made this up. It's not true. And the more I did that, the more I denied it, I was just being shown them all the time. So he suggested going for some body work and I went for therapeutic massage.
Okay.
Time, I was just so shocked at my reaction. I was kicking and crying and screaming and fighting with the therapist.
Wow.
And then I really understood then how it's in our cells, it's in our bodies on a cellular level, that in order to totally be okay, I had to find a way to integrate not just my mind, but my body, you know, to kind of line it all up.
Yes.
And so that set me on this journey of all these different therapies, transformational breath work, sweat lodges, taken San Pedro, which is a bit of a milder ayahuasca, I've walked on fire, therapeutic massage, just, you know, 5 rhythm dancing, so many different things to get back into my body.
Everything has a different effect, doesn't it? Of all of those different modalities. Yep. I always say, and I say a lot as well, that not one thing ever works. It's a kind of combination.
Absolutely. And they all complemented each other. But I still think if I was to do none of them, the only one I would pick was to speak about it.
Yeah.
To
and
find
to
my
a therapist first, or to a safe other. So if somebody like us doesn't, you know, stand up on stage and tell their story to the masses.
Yeah, I don't recommend that for everyone.
No. And I don't recommend that as the first point of call either. Yeah.
You know, I couldn't do it if I wasn't okay. And I would never use my stage for therapy. I really just use the stage to see people what I've learned from the journey, to how it's possible to heal and to give hope. And, you know, I'm not superhuman. We all have strength and resilience and we can all choose how we respond. Yeah. And that's really why I share my story and to break the shame. But yeah, I don't really think it matters if they're a therapist or not. You know, if you've got someone that you trust, tell them, because there's nothing more powerful than being listened to, being heard. But the most important thing is to be believed.
Yeah. Because, I agree with you.
You know, when I first came out, so to speak, I was about 16. My girlfriend that was involved on that night said it didn't happen like it had
Yes,
happened.
I read that in the book,
Yeah,
and
I felt let
that
down by
hurt my
her.
heart.
And
Yeah.
my mum was really quiet, and years and years of me thinking she didn't believe me. But actually, as a little 8-year-old girl, she had been raped by a neighbour a few times.
Oh, God.
So that was why when I'm confronting her with my story, she's just silenced by her unprocessed trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't understand that at the time.
Yeah.
So even if you can't tell someone, tell yourself, stop denying it, write your story down.
Yeah, yeah.
But you need to give it oxygen in some way.
Yeah. And did you heal that kind of wound or slight wound with your mother later? Did you speak about it? Did she manage to process her story at all?
She is amazing, actually. Sadly, my dad died without my mum knowing. So he's been dead nearly 22 years. And they were married for 38 years, 5 kids together. And it was too big a burden, or she was too ashamed ever to tell him.
Yeah.
So she's quite incredible because she allows me to tell her story when I speak, and she allowed me to write about his experience in my book. And it was interesting when I came out what it did to her. She did a number on herself. If I'd have been a better mum, if I'd protected you, I always knew that girl was trouble. I think, well, it wasn't the girl that got me raped, it was these 2 men.
Yeah.
And slowly, I said, Mum, it's not your fault. I said, could my granny have protected you from what happened when you were 8? She said, no. I said, so how could you possibly have made a difference to what happened to me at 13? Nothing to do with you. It's just the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And so slowly over time, she said, she's now 80. She said, I just realized that it was never my fault. I said, it was never your fault.
Good.
And now she says to me, she says, I'm very proud of what you do. I couldn't speak out, but I know it wasn't my fault.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Without any support, any counselling, nothing, no body work. And she's just, but it took a long time for her to get to that place. But my stepdad now knows. So it's interesting.
And how's he been?
He's really okay. And I spoke at a local event where I had my family, my mum, my in-laws. And
wow.
I know, that was an interesting one. So I said to my mum, I might speak about you. And she said, well, what do you say? I said, it's okay. I don't need to mention you. And my friend afterwards asked her how it was. And she said, it happened to me as well. And so she started to tell her story. And I thought, and that's why I share my story, the power of sharing our stories.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the knock-on effect, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's the knock-on effect of the untold story, because if you're right, if there's no air to it or no breath to it, it kind of still lives in us in a cellular way.
Yeah, it stays there and it festers, and then it can take over, and it infects more cells. It's like a virus, really, isn't it? It's like a bad bacteria in our systems. And I think by giving it oxygen, I think of it like a house. You have to open your windows, air your house, open the doors. If we have a room where we stuff everything in it, the paper's going to crumble. It's going to get mold. It's going to get infected. And that's what it was like. It was just this room where I stuffed all the memories deep down inside. But they come out somehow.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because when I work with sexual abuse of any sort, it's really interesting the beliefs that people take on about themselves. So in EMDR, quite often we work with the beliefs, and they're always the same with sexual trauma. They're always, or very almost always, I'm bad, I'm dirty, I'm disgusting.
Yep, for all of those.
Yeah.
And also I thought, well, I couldn't work out what I had done wrong in these 13 years. I thought maybe in my past life, I must have been a really awful person. So if I couldn't find a reason in this life, I thought, what did I do in my past life or lives to deserve this? And now I just think we're just a very, very immature species living on a planet with a lot to learn.
And if we think that way as well, I guess if we think about the UK, what is it? 1 in 4 women and 1 in 5 or 6 men?
That's reported.
That's reported. So it's probably a lot higher than that.
I mean, really, I don't know any female friend that hasn't been, had some kind of sexual inappropriate behavior, maybe not full rape or abuse, but being flashed at, groped, sent big photos. I don't know anyone that hasn't experienced something that's really not on.
I agree. And you know, it's everywhere now, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
all in the news. It's, you know, every week, almost every day there's
Just
somebody.
today on LinkedIn, I had to told a man to F off and go and get the Tinder app. This is a professional site. I now take quite joy in writing this. I don't even mince my words. I just know exactly where to go.
Yeah.
Could I get your number, dear? And then we can WhatsApp. Oh, no, I don't think so. So why don't you just F off?
Yeah.
Then I block them.
Yeah.
I swear at them first and I block them.
Yeah, that's very wise. That's very wise. Although I have to almost say as well, not in defense of, but from the other point of view, it's also women that abuse.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah,
my
no, I'm not
childhood
saying
abuse was by a woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And obviously we know that men can be raped as well. I get messages
Yes,
every day from women and men.
Yeah.
All the time. And thanking me for speaking out and saying they could never do that, or they couldn't like any of my posts because if they like them, then people would see and then they might guess. And I think that's so sad, you know, that we carry that shame and we're not supported by society because there's so much victim blaming and rape culture that, you know, I see the differences in the gender. If a man comes out, more than often he is supported. And if a woman comes out, well, what did you expect? You know, what were you drinking? Why were you there late at night? What were you wearing? Blah, blah. It's a lot to come out with. So
and totally inappropriate questions.
Totally inappropriate, because we know babies are abused. We know women in burqas are abused. So don't tell me that was their clothing, you know. Totally. So that's really going back to what you started at the beginning, this shame and how we have this attitude towards us, these self-beliefs that we're dirty because we're not supported by society. It's considered, you know, controversial to speak out about it, but yet we know it happens so much. So I want to speak out to really make it okay.
And I want to do the same, and I want to support you as much as possible in the work that you do, because we're in this together. And I think that's why almost one of the reasons that we were going to speak today was exactly to say that to everybody listening, in that we know that there are lots of people like us maybe a few years ago who haven't told their story or haven't quite let go of the shame on it yet, that we were putting together an event.
We still are.
Yeah.
With the way things are at the moment, who knows what will be going on in September? It might still go ahead.
Yes. So for those of you listening, Madeline and I and 3 or 4 others were organising a great event called A Day of Hope. It was going to be on September the 12th. It might still be, but it might actually be later in the year. And it was 5 or 6 of us having a whole day of inspirational talks and people coming together who had been through any sort of sexual trauma. And we really wanted to do it, Madeline, didn't we? So that we could bring a community and people together who had experienced the same.
Absolutely, because even just by the mere fact that we're standing on the stage and sharing our stories gives us hope.
Yes.
The fact that we can just say unashamedly, this is me, this is what happened, and I don't really care who knows anymore, you know, because I'm not the event. I'm not what happened to me. I'm not my body. I'm not my name. I'm not my mind. You know, we're all beyond all of that, but we get caught in those belief systems, these inappropriate belief systems, and this inappropriate shame that we hold on to that never belonged to us. So if we can show people, actually, for me, the thing that shattered my shame was speaking about it. So stepping into the darkness is what brings the light. Really.
I agree. And even by stepping into the room, I'm hoping that when we do A Day of Hope, whether you attend live stream or whether you're stepping actually into the room, standing up and coming to an event like that is almost a breakthrough in itself.
Absolutely. So I was very lucky. One of my first international events I went to was the Maldives,
where I remember.
Spoke for UNICEF, which, you know, is kind of hard to compete with that for my next one, but it was amazing. I would never suggest it, but one woman in the audience was very moved after I spoke, and she stood up and said that she had been abused, and if anybody would like to stand with her who's also been abused, which I would never do. but she said this, so that was fine. She was one of the attendees. I would say about 90% of the room stood up,
Wow.
including about 4 or 5 of the speakers. And it
Oh.
was the most, even now I get goosebumps.
I'm getting
about
goosebumps
it
now just listening to it.
Yeah, so my friend who asked me to speak there, Dr. Maria Ali, she was the former Ministry of Health in Maldives. And she said we left like a mini Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Because the women there are so downtrodden anyway. Men can really do what they like, and the women, just have to put up with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was like I would never really encourage anyone to do that, but that's what.
But when it happens like
ripple
that,
effect that you spoke about before, this ripple effect.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was just one of these moments that it will never leave me.
Yes.
It was incredible.
Lovely.
Incredible.
I wish many more moments like that for you. Yeah. And I hope that we can do that too at A Day of Hope. So if anybody's watching, they can go to the Trauma Thrivers website /events, and you can register your interest. I'm going to keep that page up anyway.
Yes, I think it's great. We should still share that, because as the situation now is changing day by day, really, isn't it? And who knows, maybe 2 or 3 months, I don't think things will ever be to how it was before, but things might start to go back again.
Yeah.
So hopefully September will be okay. And if not, we'll do it some other way, because we need, even more so now, we need more hope in this world. We need more kindness. We need more resilience. We need more compassion. We need to be a better community, look out for each other. So hopefully this is all going to come from these times at the moment.
Yeah. How are you coping with these times? What would you share with people? What advice would you give to others who might be struggling, who are listening to this? Because I think we were saying we can't not speak about it in an interview at the moment.
Yeah, it's difficult. So we believe one of my family members has coronavirus, my daughter's boyfriend, and also now my daughter's showing signs. So they don't live at home, they have their own place. I dropped off soup this morning for her, got to the window, we both waved to each other, and I kissed the window and she kissed the window back. I waved to her doggy. But they're young, they'll get past it, and once they're past it, they can maybe go and help other people. But right now, I'm staying quiet. My mum's 80, very frail. I'm staying away from her, which is really sad. I want to hug her and be with her, and I can't. She said, you have to stay away, and I get that. So she's very sensible. Then I have my mother-in-law who says, let's meet for coffee. And I said, no, we can't. Let's go to a cafe. I said, no, really, we can't.
Yeah.
I have my brother-in-law has a nasty cancer, so his immune system is very compromised. So we really need to protect the vulnerable members in my family. But right now I'm staying still, I'm staying quiet, I'm staying home, and I'm not looking at it as a negative. We have FaceTime, we have Netflix. I might even write another book. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Or I might do some gardening. And you know what? This morning, I said, right, we've got to get dressed, we've got to get up, we've got to, have a good routine. 11 o'clock, finally I had my shower and got dressed. Not a good start, is it?
Well, every now and again, if
tomorrow it could be 12. No, so you just have to get through it how you get through it. And I understand that for people that are anxious, it could really make their anxiety go through the roof, or it might make them think, everyone else is anxious now. This is my world.
Yes,
welcome to my reality. I've had a few friends that have said that actually they're surprised how calm they feel because everyone else is now panicking around them.
It's heightened.
But nothing ever. The storm doesn't last forever. No. It's going to be difficult. Nobody can predict this because it's unprecedented, and it feels like we're in a science fiction movie at the moment. It doesn't feel real, and the world is shutting down. But look, we have beautiful technology.
Yeah,
I can see you and we can chat. Isn't technology amazing? So I always try to look for the positive.
Yeah.
And I know that, right now, yesterday, so many of my friends have texted, FaceTime, contacted each other. I said, let's just keep in contact. I can't see you, but we'll just chat, we'll just phone, see how we all are. So we're kind of all isolated, but maybe this will grow a better community.
I think so, through connection. And, we can still do things like this and hopefully put it out on Trauma Thrivers, connect with them. We're going to keep going, aren't we? And putting our messages of hope out there.
Absolutely. And I guess really now, like when we're dealing with trauma, what really helped me was to get back into my body.
Yes.
Was to ground myself. And when we're panicking, because I spent many, many years needing to be in control, we can't control what's going on right now. So it's okay to let go of that feeling of I need to control everything, because needing to control is just really when we can't control something, when we can't, and we don't want to look at the thing we need to look at. To let go of any idea of control, because clearly we are never, ever in control, ever. Look how it's changing minute by minute. And just find whatever you can do, whether it's walking around your garden or your flat, listening to music, finding a film, running a bath, going for a walk. Find what it is to get back into your body. Meditate, breathe, go onto YouTube, get some guided meditations, put Headspace on your phone, whatever it takes. Find something to connect back to your source and ground yourself. Keep your feet firmly planted. And I think that's going to help us.
Yeah, I think those are great words of wisdom. And I think that there's lots of spaces and places that people can go online to do that. You know, nothing's going to shut down online. So if you need help or support, people can come into Trauma Thrivers. I'm sure they can come into your group Facebook page, which we'll put up in the interview. And, you know, we might get something going online, a few of us therapists, where we're helping people through the trying times ahead and weeks. So yeah, stay positive above all.
Absolutely, and stay connected even though we can't physically be together. Message people, write to people. Maybe we can start writing again.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Amazing?
Yeah, stock up on your stamps now and your notelets. I'd love a notelet in the post.
Yes, so would I. Yeah. And lastly, I suppose I really wanted to ask you a little bit about...
Oh, and read. Do lots of reading.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to do lots of writing. I'm going to try and write my first book, Madeline.
Yay!
Good, wouldn't it? Get something going. The Forgiveness Project. Can you talk a little bit just about that before we...
It was started by an extraordinary woman called Marina Cantacuzino. I think about 15 years ago. She was friendly with Anita Roddick from The Body Shop, and they set up an exhibition called The F Word, because it's quite a controversial subject, forgiveness. And she's not a preacher. She doesn't force forgiveness, but she started to collect these stories of forgiveness. But the exhibition had huge popularity. It, you know, had a lot of attention. So she decided to start the charity, and they do lots of work. So they collect the stories of forgiveness, of which I'm one of them. They've been going into prisons with their program called Restore for about 10, 12 years. I'm not sure what's happening with that at the moment because of funding and everything. And I've been a couple of times. I've been on the program twice in Peterborough Prison, which is extraordinary. It's like nothing I've ever done before. And they also have events, you know, they hold different events in London. There's the Forgiveness Project in America where they have the exhibition where they take it around. But really, she collects these stories to show people that there's an alternative to hate.
Yes.
You know, you can transform your pain into something positive, that you can use it in a better way. And once I saw it, finally, I had a choice how I respond. And also, you know, like she says, I'm not a forgiveness preacher. I was an accidental forgiver. It kind of came to me, kind of the compassion in my heart went out to these two men, but it was never about them. I always did it for me, because beforehand I was just a horrible, bitter, angry, hostile person that held on to...
I cannot imagine you.
Yeah, no, huh? I feel like it was a different person, but I was so angry and hateful, and I just plotted against them, these vicious, nasty, revengeful scenes in my mind. And once I saw that I could choose forgiveness to make peace with it all, it's not forgiving what they did to me, never, but I could let all of that go. And so being in that really angry place or being in a peaceful, more loving, compassionate place is much easier on this side, much, much easier.
And it's much better on our own cellular body, isn't it?
Absolutely.
When we can let go of that.
And even for them, I don't wish them any harm anymore. And sending that out there energetically, I hope that their life, what they did to someone else, I hope they can, you know, they have to live with that. And I can't imagine that's easy.
I try and explain, and I know this is a very, it might not seem like a very deep way of looking at things, but I think that all of our human pain, we're either imploders like you and I, and we kind of take it out on ourselves, and with addictions and eating issues and disorders and all the rest of it, or we're exploders and we kind of take our pain out on others.
I believe that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, totally.
And when I saw that, when I really understood, I believe we're all born the same. I mean, if you've looked at a baby, you've held a baby, you've never seen an evil baby. We've never. They're all born gorgeous and innocent.
Yeah.
And we just get corrupted. We get conditioned by life through
experiences,
through what we witness, through
trauma.
Yeah, exactly. All of it. All of it. So once I really saw that, I just thought, we're all victims. Really. We really are.
Yeah. I'm sure that we'll probably get some texts or emails about that, because I think for some people that's very difficult to hear.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that you have to forgive in order to heal, but this is the way that I did it. This is how I chose to do it. It was my path. It was for me. It was self-love, self-empowering. It was free, but it was also my key to freedom. It really was. And it cut all of the links the links to the past that was holding me down. It was like a lead balloon around my ankle. It just held me down for years, and cutting those chains it just was like released me from the chains of the past. But I'm not here to tell everyone they have to forgive. I'm not a forgiveness preacher.
No,
this is how I did it.
But we're here, I think, to say that you can thrive through your trauma.
Absolutely.
You can do more than survive it. You can let go of the past and overcome it, whatever has happened to you. And I think both of us are huge advocates for that. And there might be people listening that go, no way, I can't see my way through it and I can't see an end to it. But maybe we both felt like that 10 or 20 years ago.
Absolutely. So I'm also taking part in research in an organization called the Global Resilience Project.
Wow.
Head up by a woman called Emma Bell. And she's taken 50 of us, which she calls her 50 thrivers. And we've all got different stories, but she wants to see, she's interviewed us all, and there's videos, there's going to be an audio book. She wants to see, what do we all do that have helped us to thrive? And they're all different stories, from people losing partners to breaking their necks to rape, all different kind of things, homelessness, FGM. And she's come up with 9 different things that we all do. We don't all do 9 things, but we may do some of them at some point of the time. And I'm fascinated as well, I think, what is it that I do? But I think gratitude as well. And the gratitude only really came from the trauma, because it took these 2 men to nearly kill me for me to see, God, my life is precious. I'm going to live my life. I don't want to live it from an angry lens. I want to enjoy my life and live it as well as I possibly can. I don't want to be defined by one night. But I wouldn't have known that gratitude if that hadn't happened as well. I'm not wishing what happened to me on anybody else.
No.
But yes, it is fascinating to see that we can thrive. We really, really can. And I guess it's maybe post-traumatic growth. I don't know what you would.
Totally. Yeah. And as somebody said to me once, it's not so much what happens to you, it's the meaning that you make from it.
It's exactly what I say. It's not about what happens to us in life that is important, but it's what we do with it that really matters.
Yeah. And on that note, thank you so much for what you've done with yours. You're an inspiration to so many of us. And
likewise. Thank you.
Yeah, to be with you today and for you to give us your time. And I can't wait.
I've got loads of time at the moment.
Sharing a stage together later in the year.
Yes, it will happen. If not this year, some other year. If not physically, we'll do it virtually. It will happen.
And also, I really want to say a personal thank you to you, because you helped me so much with the Trauma Thrivers community.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that.
Well, sadly, we know our story is not uncommon. It is the story of many, and that really helps, because for years I just thought I was alone. I thought no one had ever experienced this, and sadly, it's not the case. No. Too many people have our story. So my story is your story, and your story is someone else's story. We're all connected by our stories. So yeah, no, you're welcome.
And we're more powerful together than we are individually.
Absolutely.
So, which is, collectively why I wanted to do this today too. Thank you, Madeline.
You're welcome.